Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we see the first advantage of digital transformation. We are slightly ahead of time, which is nice because we have a lunch coming up. The coming half hour I would like to spend on some questions to the panel. Again, Bert just asked if there are questions. I would like to ask you again, are there questions that you want to ask to the panel? Anything that you saw either yesterday or in the exhibition or this morning in the presentations? Anything goes. And if not, you're ready for lunch, then I have some questions. First question is for Fulco. Is the terminal industry ready to join digital collaboration initiatives that can truly solve some of the major efficiencies in and around port operations?
Thank you very much for the question, and I think it's it's indeed, in my view, maybe a little bit of a rhetorical question, because this is, I think, exactly the topic that Mark was addressing during his session. If I sort of answer on behalf of Vopak, I think we would really like to, but we are still. Well, we haven't really seen conclusive examples of it really happening. So we're trying. We're getting small groups of people together, but I think as a whole, maybe not quite there yet. So work in progress.
We heard quite some remarks on ecosystem and working together, so I think it's a very relevant question and topic. What is stopping you then, Fulco? What do you think is missing at the moment? To give it one more time.
Yeah, I think what seems to be stopping is probably still the matter of trust. That we have enough trust within the community of stakeholders to really work together on things that are evidently non-threatening to the individual. I think that's still holding us back. So, and constantly requires working on, I think. That's my view.
Very clear, thank you. Anybody else of the panel who wants to say something about this collaborative topic?
I think what I also mentioned in the presentation, we see parties coming together in communities. I give a very straightforward example of the community called eClick. They have one document which is very important, which is a cleaning certificate of the truck. So is the truck clean to load a certain product? And this was obviously always on paper, and there was always information missing, or people were looking for the information. So this community has decided to digitize this and make that available within the community. So between the cleaning station, between the trucking company, and between the cargo owner. And that's really working well, and it's working so well that they're now looking at other documents that are relevant, also bringing the terminal into play. Because nowadays, I mentioned that in my presentation, if a truck arrives at the terminal, truck driver steps out with a big bunch of paper. The terminal has a bunch of paper, and they're all checking whether the paper is the same, right? And in this day and age, that's really not necessary anymore. And I think we trust each other enough to say, okay, let's make that digital, because it helps each one of us, right? So that I see first signals in our industry happening.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I think it's a fine example, but I also think for terminals especially, the loading and unloading needs to be speedy. It's one of the few things that your customer sees of you, right? So in that sense, it's very good to automate these things. Atul, Bert, I have 5 other questions. If you want to say something about it.
Maybe it's a great discussion. I'd love to maybe provide our perspective on it. We believe, because of our vantage point of having a panoramic view of what's happening in the industry, I personally believe that the future will be an interconnected ecosystem of platforms. So the great work, Mark, that NxtPort is doing, for example, we see that happening with other industries as well. And these are platforms that are going to be built by the industry. So as much as I would like to say that software companies like us or the others will have a play, for example, or a contribution in it, but these will be platforms that will be built by the industry, solving industry platforms. And I believe there is a lot that can be learned, and a lot of these challenges have been solved. I'll give you a few examples. We are involved in a consortia of 6 largest commodity trading companies, like Bunge, Cargill, Archer Daniel Midlands, and all of these are competitors. All of these are, competitors in their own right. And this whole industry, which is the post-trade execution process, is a 150-year-old industry. They still send paper, document instructions, work instructions, letter of credit. There is so much paper that is printed in this industry. If you were to print that over 1 year, it's as tall as 3 times Mount Everest. There are 250 emails exchanged between sending shipment from, for example, Sao Paulo in Brazil to Shanghai in China. So the industry came together in spite of being competitors, and they are building their own platform to digitize the post-trade execution process. They had challenges about, can we trust each other's data? If you are a competitor A and competitor B, can I put my data into the platform which others can see? With the use of modern technologies like blockchain, all of that, smart contracts, it's possible. And I believe that the tank storage industry is ripe for it. There's a lot of ecosystem play that is happening, but the future will be an ecosystem of platforms.
Okay, well, I think Atul already mentioned it a little bit. If you look at the tank storage industry, are there learnings that we can take from other industries? Anybody?
I think building on what Atul also was mentioning, we see other industries indeed moving towards platform connectivity. For example, if you take a flight now compared to 20 years ago, it's so much different because all of this data is available in real time, it's accurate, you can rely on it. 20 years ago it was sometimes a nightmare if you were flying a lot across the world, connecting flights, missing luggage, etc. Nowadays one of the most is one of the best means of transport available to us. And we have everything on our mobile phone. This is all API based. We don't know the technology behind it, but it is all the information we need is at our fingertips. And I think there's many other examples. Train arriving, etc. The delivery of your pizza or the book that you ordered at bol.com. I think all of these industries are going through the motions of digital transformation. And I think as a liquid bulk storage community, we should stop preparing for change, but really going into the change, because it's already happening all around us.
Thank you. Anybody else from the panel?
No, I concur.
You agree? I agree fully with Mark, but just a perspective also on what you mentioned with the airline industry. It's happening all around us, and that's where the future for us lies. So I'll give you 2 examples. Amadeus, the old airline booking system, right now it's all digital. You can have, at some years ago, you need to carry a paper ticket and a digital. Right now it's all automated with digital tickets. And another company, some of you may have heard of it, is Adyan. A payment platform. Less people would have heard of it, but those ecosystem players or network orchestrators who can orchestrate with different parties, that's where the future lies. Just two relevant examples for this industry.
Yeah, thank you. Repeating a little bit what I heard from Mark and Atul, I like the idea. The thermal industry is about logistics, and the example of the airplane and money, in a way, is also logistics. But then not oil, but people and money, so to speak, right? Okay, thank you very much. A bit in that same atmosphere, where is the terminal industry most behind, and where do you feel digitization can bring its very first business benefits and business agility? Anybody, ladies, gentlemen?
Yeah, obviously, maybe not an easy question to answer. Where are we most behind? But I think if I, yeah, but I mean, I joke a little bit, but it is simply a fact that our type of industry, per definition, is incredibly conservative because we are incredibly responsible for every single person that works on our location. So safety has been such a feature that we have also made it very difficult for ourselves to change things. And so it's not all bad. I mean, it has sometimes good reasons, but the fact is that we've been very, very slow. Where are we most behind? I think you know, someone like Bart might also be able to comment, but I think really the way we physically operate our facilities and the use of shift technicians to constantly do or what we know are really the most repetitive tasks, where humans are really ultimately the most badly equipped to do them. I think that would be really an area where I think we're really far behind. Well, yeah, because it's counterintuitive, because we are so focused on the safety, we have made everything double, triple checked, but then we get the instrument that is least equipped to do that is a human, because humans are very good at looking at you know, a new situation, but humans are extremely bad in spotting the one mistake in 1,000 sort of normal situations. So I think that's where we're really behind. Not sure if anyone else. Yeah, Bart.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, I agree, and that's what we see as well. We see a lot of manual labor still required, while technology is already there to automate it. And I think that is the main reason, due to legislation, that it's lagging behind, also with regards to safety, which is very important, obviously.
Fully agree, but if I may add another example, change is hard. We've seen that as well. It's very easy to, for example, say we can automate a process, for example, but we found out that managing exceptions was more complicated. We saw truck turnaround time, for example, 200 minutes. It's not about the average. Can we bring down the average from, let's say, 200 minutes, 200 minutes, and have a very nice management report saying, you know, we are doing well on truck turnaround time, as an example, is good management metric. But on ground, what we also face is the exceptions are really having a cascading impact on business operations. And how do we have the right balance of automation and managing exceptions? Don't have a silver bullet answer for it, but that's a challenge that we see.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that makes a lot of sense. I myself have recently worked for a company that lived for 9 years without safety incidents while working with very, very dangerous chemicals. Former Vopak, by the way, just to give it away a little bit. But I agree that if you want to live 9 years without incidents, you need to be very, very careful, and that probably hinders your flexibility a little bit. The word has been mentioned a few times. We've had a lot about cooperation and trust and exchanging data. And one of the new techniques is blockchain. Now, I haven't heard it so much, but I would be interested, what can you say, all four of you, about blockchain in your industry? How do you look at it?
Yeah, just a few words. I think, firstly, blockchain, I think, is already playing and destined to play an incredibly important role in the custody transfer, so the transfer of ownership. So distributed ledger technologies are I think, already changing the way that traders operate and the platforms they use to manage transactions. In future, and also already today, but definitely in future. If you simply look at the energy of the future, be it hydrogen or ammonia, you can produce these molecules, of course, in a green way or in a grey way. The one leads to a lot of carbon dioxide, the other does not. If you're going to be in the terminaling business and you're storing this stuff, it's going to be incredibly important to demonstrate to everyone, external stakeholders, the public, that what you are actually managing, is it green, is it blue, is it grey? And I think also their distributed ledger will be extremely important. How exactly, I think, still work in progress. But
And is Vopak actively looking at blockchains now as such, or is it still, as you say, the vision is there and it will come one day? Just to be a bit more.
we are actively working with an industry platform that is built on this technology. As a company itself, yes, also, but in a quite a specific domain, and we're not yet really communicating that. But with platforms that use it, yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Mark?
Yeah, I think we see trading platforms for the custody of transfer makes a lot of sense, and all the financing that is around that, insurance and those kind of things. I think once it comes to the execution of the trade, it really starts, like I mentioned in the presentation, with first having real-time data. Because if you don't have real-time data and you put that in the blockchain, it's fixed forever, and it doesn't give you any value. So I think we're for the storage industry and let's say the supply chain, liquid bulk supply chain, we are still quite far from using this advanced technology.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. If I may draw parallels with the consortia for the agri-trade companies. The commodity trading business is proprietary platform. Haven't seen blockchain much used on it. Obviously, blockchain is predominantly used, what we see in the financial market, letters of credit, and those kinds of things, then moved into the energy commodity market. And in this case, is used for the post-trade execution process. So after a trade has been done, and you need to physically execute a trade, moving commodities, in this case, dry bulk, but one can also extrapolate to liquid bulk as well. When you physically execute that trade, they are using blockchain predominantly for trust. As you mentioned, Mark and Fulco, it's predominantly about trust because you are having, let's say, competitors on the same platform using the same platform to manage, let's say, the post-trade execution process. One more important thing if I may add, is the industry came together because there was a problem that they had to solve. That's very important. That's what we thought. There was a problem that they had to solve collectively. They never had a competitive advantage if they invested to solve that problem on their own. And it was a benefit for the industry to have that platform solving an industry platform. And that's what I truly believe is going to happen. And I personally believe the NxtPort initiative and the platforms are the future to go.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I all agree with you three, to be honest. And I think it's a step towards a collaboration model because you cannot do it alone. And that was also the key message of our presentation. We have to do it together. Provide every company who is in the entire value chain and combine forces and to optimize the entire supply chain. And yeah, I think the technology is there, but I think we have to embrace this change. That's what we have to do.
Okay, thank you. I have a final question. Previously, we had a little bit of the contradiction in safety versus being flexible and safety versus versatile operations. We heard a lot about collaboration and data exchange and APIs. The more APIs you have and the more data you exchange, the more vulnerable you are towards cybersecurity. Also there, unfortunately, you have a little bit of the contradiction. The more you integrate, the more you connect, the more you're vulnerable to cybersecurity somehow. How does that impact your vision on going forward on the collaboration? That's inherent dilemma.
Yeah, you're first, Joko. Sorry.
I'm very happy that you give this one to me because it's such a complex complex area. So I would always like to take it a couple of steps back. I mean, the sort of the digital world, advances, etc., that we have made, that is there to stay. It is unstoppable, unmovable, whether or not we, we see hurdles or threats or dangers or not. It's not going to change that. So we will absolutely continue to move down this train. So, though it's not my area of expertise, but one of the things that the smart people in the company keep on telling me is that the architectural setup is very, very important in this respect. So I think from a security perspective, you need to pay attention to your design. You need to be very clear as to how you build up your platforms, which partners you choose. You need to make sure that they basically understand and understand the risks and comply with the things that are important to comply with, and that you have your mitigations in place. So, I mean, in my view, we will advance. We are not going to stop because of these type of attacks, but we do really design always with the security aspect in mind very strongly.
I think if we look at some examples where we had cybersecurity attacks also very recently in our industry, it's always going through email or internet or DDoS attacks, etc. A couple of years back, we had a container business almost completely, stopped for about 3 weeks, which was quite a disaster. And it was a little old IT, I think an accountancy system that was not controlled centrally, etc. So I would argue that coming together on a platform with modern API technology, actually cybersecurity, improves. Because with this modern technology, you can control from a centralized point of view, and you're less vulnerable than, for example, using emails.
Agree, Mark, and in fact, we've seen that with Log4j as an example, and our firm was also a victim of the ransomware. And if you do the root cause analysis of all of that, they were not because of the modern technologies. So I agree with you, Mark. All of these vulnerabilities are on legacy applications that were built like 15, 20 years ago. All organizations have that, and there is that 1 or 2 vulnerabilities in that enterprise that causes the entire business operations to fail. And I personally believe, contrary also to popular belief, if we put the data in a modern platform or on the cloud, but it's a cloud platform, if we don't own it, they are one of the most secure platforms out there, much better than, let's say, a lot of enterprises can have the security protocols. And I believe as more and more organizations embrace use of modern technologies, I think we and the organizations will become more secure from these attacks. And I think they're only going to get worse.
I all agree. So what do I have to add? You may ask, well, in my opinion, cybersecurity is a part of main strategy. Everything what you do should be, cybersecurity should always be as a central point. Because if you connect systems, you create vulnerabilities. Keep your systems up to time and especially create awareness with your people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bert. Yeah, from my own experience, indeed, from our company, we do studies to this, and the human is the weakest particle in here, unfortunately. USB sticks, emails, wrong websites, that kind of stuff, that's where your risks are. That's all about compliance and about awareness, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your last chance to ask questions to the panels. And go ahead.
Lily Chen from NxtPort International. So the question is for the panels. So I think you're very experienced. You've done quite a bit of implementations and digitalizations. And from NxtPort perspective, we also have helped quite a lot of large oil companies and storage space to present some digital solutions at various stages. We find it very difficult and challenging. And because each customer is asking for, show me the benefits and what are they, and because of the regulations to talk about paperless, and in Australia, for instance, bill of lading, you used to have to carry a whole bunch of papers, and so we can prove it. ExxonMobil said you can show you, and the system can do it, but regulatory said no, we can't. We still have to go back, and this is what the law says. So there's a lot of challenges. So the question is, based on your experiences, based on past few years, what you have done, what are the main 3 benefits that have really delivered to our industry, to the storage tanks, to the storage, to distribution? 3 main benefits. Thank you.
So if each of you gentlemen gives 3 advantages, we have 12.
Thank you very much.
It's not fair. No, you always need to start.
I have to admit it was quite noisy on the background, so I didn't really very good get the questions, but I thought you were meaning you were looking for 3 answers for why digitization works, or fits. Well, it it gives transparency over the. For example, now let me start one way back. I think digitization is getting data, and what always should be a central point is, it should work for your business. You have to have a business case. My colleague Nick showed, for example, a predictive maintenance case, which is very nice. You know when your motor, your pump fails. Okay, but what are you going to do with that data? And that is the question. Do you keep it only with your maintenance personnel? Or if you know your pump fails in the next 3 months with a certainty of 95%, do you already schedule an intervention? Do you already order the parts which can break in the upcoming 3 months? Do you already inform your sales personnel that they may not do certain trades? And that's, in my opinion, the most important thing. What does it bring for your entire business? Stop with silo thinking. I think that's the most important thing. And from Siemens' point of view, yes, we're a big company. Yes, we also think sometimes in silos, but we have to cross that boundaries. We have to think about other colleagues, finance colleagues, HR colleagues. For example, in the case what I mentioned, if you need personnel to fix a problem and you know it 3 months in advance, I think it's a relevant case at the moment. Because if you open the news, the roads at Schiphol, it's 6-hour waiting time. Do we have the personnel at that moment to fix it? And if we can schedule it in advance, we can increase our uptime, our reliability to our customers. So I hope this answers at least one question. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe, I'm not sure if this is the answer that you're looking for, but I just thought maybe give you 3 examples, specific examples within Vopak. Firstly, we have, thanks to also working with one of our technology partners, we've been able to digitize our ship-to-shore process for the handling of seagoing vessels at a large number of our terminals, and we will complete that within a not too distant future. So, gotten rid of all the inefficiencies around that specific process. Is it organization changing? No, in itself it's not, but it is a very, very clear benefit to everyone that has used those, and we've done that using technology. We have used LoRa sensors at a vegetable oil terminal, which is to some extent quite old infrastructure, to such an extent that we have prevented overheating of product time and time and time again, because it used to be controlled manually, and then people would maybe forget to oversee it, and now it's basically we use sensors to ensure it doesn't happen. We have robotized underwater jetty pile inspections in Singapore, where we used to need to send in divers to do that very hazardous activity. We can now utilize underwater drones to do that, get much better quality of data with a higher safety standard. So 3 examples to give you some idea.
Yeah, same thing, 3 examples. Safety, efficiency and productivity are all in play when looking at automating, let's say, the processes and getting real-time data. And the fact that we don't have real-time data makes for a lot of data silos, makes for a lot of double handling of information, makes for searching, correcting, cleaning, amending, etc. data. So we are handling piles of data, piles of paperwork, etc., but we don't have information. And that is in itself a safety issue. So I think you will immediately see where you digitize, where you automate, and get the human factor out. The human feels now more safe. He does more efficient work and better decision making and productive.
Fully agree with you, Mark. If I may add, there's only one main element, and that's to start with business value. Every customer, I agree, is different, so finding the business value could be challenging. But if there is no business value, then there's no point in doing the project. There has to be a business value. If you're not finding it, then maybe you need to look differently. It's what we have seen. For the example that I gave earlier, for workforce efficiency, we digitized the process, the work instructions, the huge amount of paper that was carried. It's possible to remove paper. We've done that, and that increased efficiency by at least 12%. 35% of the effort for 3,000 construction workers were wasted in non-productive work. We reduced it down to 12%, and that's huge savings if you look at markets like Nordics. For the post-trade execution process, the entire post-trade execution process is now run on the platform. As I mentioned, the only companies that were making money were the logistics companies shipping letters of credit and document instructions and all of those things across the world. Think of sustainability going out of the window for that matter. It's all digital right now, so it's possible, I would say.
Thank you very much, Atul. Yes, I also agree with the panel. There's one thing I want to add. Both Atul and I work for a consultancy company, so we get this question very often, and it's a nasty one. There are 2 kinds of value in my view. There is the qualitative value and there is quantitative value. Quantitative is the stuff you can count. You can reduce people, you can reduce cost, things you can measure, you can count. It's difficult to find. If you hear some of the examples, it's about safety, reducing paper, which is obvious, but that's more the qualitative. Then there's a 3rd kind of value, and that is, what if I don't? What if my safety is in danger? Now that is a bit of fear factor, which is not very nice, but of course in these days, that is an upcoming factor. So my final answer would be, always look at the value, and do accept the fact that it's not always easy to quantify. Try it, but accept the fact that it will often be qualitative. Yeah? With this, if there are no more questions, I would say thank you very much to the panel, everyone. Fulco, Mark, Atul, Bert, top of my head at the end of the panel. Thank you very much. It was a